Hey folks, Jonathan again. Got our brake parts in. New shoes for front and back, new brake hoses, new master cylinder, and 4 new wheel cylinders. So we're going to go ahead and I've got the forklift around here and got the front picked up. We're going to get these wheels off the front and go ahead and pull the drums and see. Hopefully they're good to be able to turn them. If not, I'll hunt something up. But I'll for some of you, the younger generation watching it, has probably never done drum brakes. I'll show you how we do it, and probably speed it up on the camera so it won't take so long. There's not much to it really. Pretty simple. All right, show you more. And there is one of the reasons why you go on and buy a brake shoe. As you can see, both linings are loose, and what could have happened is when I went to drive it, these may have been stuck to the drum, and then they spun on off, or when I just took it off I might have knocked them off. But either way, they wasn't worth a thing. And I actually think the new ones I bought are riveted, which as long as you don't wear them down into the rivets, it's not a big deal. Drum looks really good, nice and thick. The lip's not real bad, so we'll have no problem putting it up and turning it. And I'll go find some brake tools. All this crusty stuff falling out of the wheel cylinders. That's why I don't attempt to rebuild them. And nowadays I think it's cheaper anyway to buy them. I think $4 and something a piece. I remember when the kits were at least that much or more. Anyway, let me get the brake tools. And you don't have to have brake tools. It just makes it easier. Okay, I actually found, here's my brake spring pliers. This is just an old set. I've got a bunch of them, but I usually end up using these ends more than this end. But here's the screwdriver I was talking about, and this just grips the keeper, and you turn it, bring it right off of what we call the little nails on there. And I'm not giving you correct terms for this stuff because I've never bothered to learn them. But this end here, you can actually open it up, put it over top of your pin, and turn it, and catch your spring and pull it off. And that little lip grabs it. It's supposed to grab it. Well, that one didn't grab it. It's not going on far enough. But you get the idea. Need a screwdriver. Not much of a screwdriver, but more of a pry driver. There we go. Alright, and on this, just push in and turn it, let off. It's just got a T-slot in it. There's a T-slot on the end of the brake nail there. It just makes it real easy to get on and off. I've done it with needle nose plenty of time, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but. And on brake hardware, I'm not replacing it if it's not bad. And these springs was good and tight. They're not wore out, they're not rusted out, so we won't worry about them. And of course this is stuck, which is normal. So this will have to be, I'll put it in the vise, clean it up real good, and then get it all unstuck. And it's got to be, it's not stuck on this end, but I mean it's got to be able to turn on this end. and get the threads cleaned up and get it to where it'll adjust. And I don't know if you can see all the powder coming out, but I mean, there was just no helping them. And the new wheel cylinders got new rubber, but they don't have these pieces to save them. And there's your piece that holds your brake shoes on, goes between the spring and the brake shoes. Clean all this up. Clean the shaft off, you know, because like I said, we're going to repack the bearing. See what kind of shape them brake lines we're actually in. Yeah, they're not that bad. Some weather cracking on them, but they're not as bad as I figured they would be. But we don't want to use old lines. Sometimes lines on the inside, what actually happens is the rubber on the inside, because you've got rubber and you've got nylon, sort of like a string, I guess it's braided in there. And you got rubber on the inside, but the rubber on the inside will come loose. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll hit the brakes, it'll push the fluid through, and then the rubber will flap over like a heart valve, and it won't let your fluid come back out. And sometimes people think they, like on a disc brake system where you got they think they have a caliper stick in it, it's really a hose giving the trouble. So no more than what hoses cost, just replace them. If they're old, just don't even attempt to try to reuse them. And you know, you can get just about any of them now, and if you can't get one, you can always adapt and you know, find something that's close. I've done that a lot. So. And wheel cylinders, big trucks, if you can't find a wheel cylinder that is correct, and let's say it's pitted, I've done this on 2-ton trucks a lot, on older stuff, you know, from the 40s. Actually, I have plated over the holes in the backing plate and welded it up, and then just recut the holes I wanted. As long as you're getting your bore close to the same, you know, because that's where your power comes from, and as long as you're getting your distance, your length right for the throw on the brake shoes, you know, you can use just about any wheel cylinder you want, you know, and adapt it and make it work. And so, you know, you don't let stuff like that worry you. Okay, another thing to really watch for on this, when you take your line off, some of them has brass or copper washers, and they're supposed to send new ones, but they don't always do it. And there it is. So sometimes you'll get it with the wheel cylinder, sometimes you'll get it with the hose, and sometimes you just don't get it at all. Now these are reusable, and I guess a man, he could have nailed it if he wanted to with a little bit of heat and bring it back with the, you know, the smut off of a torch. But I've never had any trouble with them, so, you know, if I don't have a new one, I will reuse an old one, so just don't lose that. And as you can see, the hole in these brake lines is very small. Anyway, it looks like about an 1/8 inch, so, you know, even though the hose is big, the hole's not very big, and it don't take much to block them off. And you can see a little rust inside the system anyway. So. And like I said, these wheel cylinders are so crusty and bad, there was no rebuilding them anyway. So there's our wheel cylinder, and there's what 35 years of sitting looks like. So I don't even know, we've probably been a pain to even get them out, but so that's why you put a whole new brake system on. And the kingpins are good in that. Now, usually if you grab a hold of the steering wheel, of course, if you don't have any play, but if you turn the wheel and it's pretty tight compared to what it normally would be, you know, a good kingpin's going to freeze up and lock up from sitting way before a wore out one is. And this steering was pretty tight, and it needed some grease. Probably replace the grease fittings, because, you know, a lot of times the grease fittings won't take grease. So. All right, let's get our new parts and get this backing plate cleaned off and start assembling. Okay, we got the wheel cylinder on, and I just sprayed it with some old paint I had just to keep it from rusting anymore. Just wiped it down, blowed it off. I didn't do a bunch to it. You got to be careful blowing this stuff off, because these was probably asbestos brakes, I would say. 35 years old for sure, and probably a lot older, but we'll go ahead and get the shoes and start getting them on. Alright, there's a bunch of different ways you can go about this. You know, which spring to put on first, or which shoe, or whatever you want to do. But first thing you got to do is figure out which the short shoe is. And of course you can see this one's shorter than this one. And we're not talking about the full shoe, we're just talking about the binding on the shoe, and or the lining. And the short one goes toward the front. So what I usually do is just go ahead and stick it on. And then stick the long one on. Alright, put your first spring on, and we need our brake tool again. That's where we use this other end. And just stick it on there, pop it on, and you can close it up some if you'd like to make sure it's closed all the way, but at least push it in, get it ready for the next one to go beside it. This is fun doing with a screwdriver if you don't have one of these tools. It can, you got to watch for flying springs. Alright, now the next thing I do, I always put the lower spring on, and these springs don't have a gap in them, and if you ever look at the rear, you'll notice that there's part of it that just has a straight and the spring's not full, and that's so that adjuster will clear it. For the front, you don't want it to clear it, you want it to hit it, and that's what keeps you from backing off once you adjust your shoe where you need it to be. And I'll go ahead and put the spring on while it's nice and easy, and then I'm gonna get this unstuck and collapse it all the way down, and then I'll fight it in there, and just make sure you line it up with where your groove is in your backing plate so you can get to it with a tool to adjust it. Alright, shape on. Okay, we got our adjuster freed up good, cleaned up good, screwed all the way in. Put that in first, if we can get it in. Our spring likes to be in the way. And we'll try to get our prior springs, our shoes apart. It's a tough spring, I can tell you that already. This might be a fun one. Alright. It's in there. We're good to go with that. It's adjust all the way in so we know our drum will go on, and then we can adjust out to it. What we're going to do now is turn the drum. Okay, we're turning the drum on this thing now, especially on the front. But I found out if you don't turn these drums and you just clean them up and put them on, it's hard to get it to stop straight. You know, it likes to pull from left to right or whatever, and you're not getting the same contact on each one. And so that's why I turn them for sure. And this drum lathe, this is one I've redone probably a year and a half ago or something, maybe a little less. But anyway, in the description I'm going to put a link to this if anybody wants to see it. This was it was pretty rough shape, but I redone the cart and redone everything on it. And anyway, so we're going to get at it here. Okay, we're making our final cut across it. Coming out really good. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, we're just about to the end here. We'll let it run out and then we'll shut it off and take a look at it. There's plenty of thickness left in it. we go. I don't know if you can see the surface or not, but it's about as good as you ever get. A little dust on it. So we're good to go with that. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to pack the wheel bearings, because you know, they make a piece you can put, you know, on each side of the wheel bearing that you pump grease into. But you know, I don't have one, never have had one. But you know, there's a right way and a wrong way of packing them. You don't just want to rub grease on them. You know, when you talk about packing a wheel bearing, you're actually packing grease in it. So I'm going to show you real quick how to do that, and then I think we're going to call it quits for the brakes, and I'll go ahead and finish them up off camera, and we're going to try to get this truck where we can drive her down the road. Okay, got our wheel bearings clean, and I used a little mineral spirits to clean them in a can, and you can use about anything you want. But anyway, as long as you get them clean, and you'll hear when you get them clean, you'll be able to, you know, hear the dry bearings in there. You just shake them and it rattles around. I don't know if it's going to zoom or not. We're going to have to make it zoom, huh? But anyway, what we've got is high temperature wheel bearing grease, and I'm going to show you the old school way of doing this, and I'm not going to wear any gloves. I mean, we never wore gloves. I don't remember anybody wearing gloves years back, but of course everybody does now. But you know, that's up to you if you want to do it. This is a messy job, but what you want to do is get some grease out, put it in the palm of your hand, and you know, right in the center there. Take your bearing, which you can hear your bearings rattle in it, and actually run it through the grease, but sort of cup your hand, and what you're doing is you're actually forcing the grease into the bearing. And you know, you may have to move the grease around a little bit and get it back where it needs to be, but you just keep forcing, and that's actually forcing the grease up inside, and the new grease, of course. And you'll actually be able to see it. You can see it through here. It'll actually start coming out, you know, around. Just takes a little bit of work. You can see a little bit of the dark there. I think that's from where that could have come off my hand too. My hand wasn't the cleanest in the world, was it? But just keep working it until you get it all in. You just don't want to rub grease on a bearing and throw it in there and think that it's packed, because it's not going to be packed good in there. And you can just keep working it around until you get it all in. Like I said, you can wear gloves. I don't know how it would do with the rubber gloves, but I've never tried it. But eventually, you're not going to really have any grease left in your hand. It's going to, you know, get it all off, and you can wash your hands beforehand, maybe make the job a little better. But anyway, but that's what you do, and that's how you pack a bearing, like I said, the old school way. And you'll feel how tight the bearing is. You know, it's not rattling around like it was. It's packed in there good and ready to go. So we're going to do them, and we'll get the wheel back on. And I know a lot of this stuff's boring to some folks. You know, they've done it a lot, but you got to remember that there's a young generation out there that you know, may not have done this before. So, you know, the bearings now, I think everything's sealed units. You know, you buy the hub and there's no bearings there. So, but don't make the mistake of just rubbing grease on the bearing and sticking it in. And when you put your drum on, don't, you know, your hub on, don't over tighten it. You know, you want to be able to still turn it freely, and get your castle nut lined up and get your cotter key back in it. But anyway, I'm going to finish all the brakes up on this thing, and I appreciate everybody watching. Till next time, bye.